everybody, and welcome to my July book haul. Alright, so I got a few books in the month of July, not a ton. I've been trying to save my money for our Oregon trip. We're going to Powell's Bookstore in Portland on the way to our destination, and I'm so excited. If you guys haven't been to Powell's Bookstore or don't know anything about it, Powell's Bookstore in Portland is a bookstore that takes up an entire city block, plus I think they have like an offshoot across the street. And anyways, it's just an amazing bookstore. They have, it's an entire city block, plus it's multiple stories. So you can find pretty much anything there. So I've been saving my money for that, but I did pick up a few books from secondhand stores, and I got two brand new books. So the first of those is The Wings of Fire by Sutherland. This is the 5th book in the Wings of Fire series. This is the book that finishes up the Dragonets of Prophecy storyline. So it's kind of like the climax of the story, and then the books continue with a different set of characters. So I'm excited for this one. This is a middle grade series that I've been really enjoying. It's surprised me a lot, but I really enjoy it. So that's Wings of Fire by Sutherland. Next up is a book I got in a book crate from LitJoy Crate, and that is Sanctuary by Caryn Lix. And this is a sci-fi young adult novel about this girl who wants to become an elite guard, but then she's taken hostage by rioting prisoners and has to figure out a way to survive. I'm really excited for this one just because I haven't heard of it. I've been looking to get into more sci-fi. I've been looking to get into more adult sci-fi, but I feel like young adult sci-fi hasn't really disappointed me yet. I'm excited to read this one. I'm not sure when I'm going to get to it, but anyways, that's Sanctuary by Caryn Lix. Next up is a book that I got from DI, which is Deseret Industries, if you don't know, if you're not from this area. But I got Stardust by, I got Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Now, normally I'm really opposed to getting movie edition covers, but I made an exception for this one, number one, because it was actually in really good condition, and number two, I love this movie. I adore this movie, but I've never read the book, and so I'm really excited to get into this one because I enjoyed Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman, but I've never read any of his other stuff. So I'm excited to get into this one. It's about a young boy named Tristan. I'm kind of going off the movie synopsis. It's about a young boy named Tristan who is in love with this girl, and so to prove his love, he ventures into this magical land and has to basically survive there and all the adventures that ensue there. Also, I love this movie because I had a super huge crush on Septimus, who's played by Mark Strong, and so I seriously watched that movie over and over again and just obsessed over him. Next, I got a book called A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. This book is about, it says, rediscovering America on the Appalachian Trail. So apparently this guy gets back after 20 years in Britain and kind of wants to reacquaint himself with America, and so he decides to go on the 2,100 mile, that's 2,100 mile Appalachian Trail, which goes from Georgia to Maine. And anyways, he decides to hike that, and it's sort of his adventure. Whether it's humorous or not, I'm not entirely sure, but I hear it's really popular. And I found this really awesome edition / excellent condition copy. Yeah, I was really interested in it, so decided to pick it up. The last book I got from DI was a book called Sarah's Quilt by Nancy Turner. This book is actually a sequel to a book called These Is My Words. It's about a woman who travels in the Arizona territories, and it's basically about her hardships, building a homestead, having children, and her family's hardships. It's based on true journals, so it's based on the life of an actual, pioneer. It's obviously heavily sort of dramatized and that kind of a thing. And it was really hard to read because of how many hardships they had to go through and how awful it was, but I still loved it because she has some wonderful insights and some beautiful bits of wisdom in that book. And so I don't have a copy of it myself. I'd like to, so I can highlight the stuff. But this is the sequel to it, so it's called Sarah's Quilt. And it just takes place, I guess, right after what happened at the end of the book. I mean, you could read These Is My Words totally on its own. Like, you don't have to go into this one. But I saw this edition that was in really, really awesome condition. It's like, I mean, it's hardly touched, and so I thought I'd pick it up and give it a shot. Alright, the next couple of books I got were from the dollar book sale, so I got each of these books for $1, and one of them is the Cartoonist's Workbook, drawing, writing gags, and selling. I don't intend on selling, I just kind of wanted a workbook that would help me kind of make my own little comic to express myself. I mean, I consider myself an artist, but sometimes I wish I had just a really simple way to express how I'm feeling in a given moment, and so I decided to pick this up because it has a ton of examples that are really, really simple, and you know, how to develop your style, how to get the point across, and I felt like this was just a fun little book to pick up, and just something I'm looking forward to working with. Next book I got was The High King's Tomb by Kristen Britton. I've had my eye on this book for a while. This is the third book in the Green Rider series, which I have not read the second one yet. I read the first one when I was young and I loved it, but I've totally forgotten the story because it took her forever to get the third book out, and now there's like 6. So there's like 6 books out in this series, and also I love this gorgeous cover. And again, normally I try not to break my rule of, so I have the first 2 in paperback, and then this one's a hardcover. But I love this cover so much. It's one of my favorite book covers that exist. And so I decided, hey, it's for $1, might as well pick it up. The next book I got is a big ol' huge freaking book called, it's called Arts, there we go. It's called Arts and Ideas by William Fleming. Anyways, so this, I mean, look at this. It is totally destroyed. But this book is sort of about, it's basically art history. So they have all these big examples of art history. It's an older sort of textbook style thing. But what I like about it is that from what I've read in it, it talks a lot about like the symbolism in art history, and you know, because a lot of that old art has symbolism within it. We just don't understand it because it's not used a ton in modern art. And anyways, so that's part of the reason why I picked it up, is just because I wanted to learn more about art history. And this was only for $1, so picked it up. And that's Arts and Ideas by William Fleming. Now these other books that I got they're not necessarily books that I bought, but they're books that I rediscovered. So we were up at my parents' and they have a bunch of my stuff still up there in storage. And so I decided to go through some of those boxes of my books, and I pulled some of these out to add to my collection here in my current home until we can go through and get all my boxes, or until we move into a house. I can't keep all my books here with me. So I decided to pull these books out because I was interested in either reading them or rereading them, or just keeping them with my collection to keep them a little bit more safe. And that first one is The Art of James Christensen, A Journey of the Imagination. James Christensen is my favorite artist, and he's what really inspired me to pursue art and all that good stuff. So his stuff is very whimsical, but also very reminiscent of old medieval artwork. But it's very whimsical, very magical, all very symbolic. He has symbols littered throughout his artwork. Anyways, he actually died. He actually passed away a few years ago, and I'm really bummed about it because I never got to meet him. He died pretty young. He died of cancer, I believe. Anyways, so I'm really glad that I found these old books again. Next up is my copy of Dinotopia, The World Beneath. So I was looking for this one. I was bummed I couldn't find it, but I found it in those boxes. So this is the second book in the Dinotopia kids book series by James Gurney, and I love Dinotopia with a passion. I adore it. I mean, look at these illustrations. And these are all classic, traditionally painted illustrations. And so I have all of them except for one. So I have Dinotopia, the first one, and I have then this one's the second one, The World Beneath. There's a third one I don't have yet called First Flight, but then I have the other one, which is Journey to Chandra. Yes, I know they're kids' books, don't judge me. The next one I picked up was The Prairie Traveler. This is a book that I had for a long time. I thought it was just kind of a fun, weird book to pick up about like the advice for pioneers who are traveling. I have an idea for a Western that I want to write, and so I thought this would be good to take back with me to kind of do a little research. The other one I have is The Illustrated Language of Flowers. This one, I can't remember where I picked it up, but this is such a fun, it's like a little dictionary that tells you the meaning of different flowers or plants and things, but then they also have these little poems that are at the end of each sort of section and little illustrations. And I love that. I love the idea that flowers tell a story, and so I would love to like write a book based on that or something. So that's The Language of Flowers. Next I picked up is Walden and Other Writings by Henry David Thoreau. This is something that I've been meaning to read for a long time. I picked it up as a teenager, as, you know, trying to be well educated and all that good stuff. So just picked it up, decided to take it home with me. Eventually I'll get to it. Next up I picked up, this is a book that I don't remember having. I think it was just shoved in my box like nobody knows, like I don't know. It was probably part of our family collection, but somebody just shoved it into my box. And that's called Dragons in the Waters. And I read the back of it, and it's about, like, there's a murder, but then there's also a family heirloom, and it takes place back in the day. I don't know. So I was looking at this, and I was like, oh, I've never heard of that author before. Pfft, she wrote A Wrinkle in Time, apparently, so I have no idea, but I haven't read A Wrinkle in Time. So I was just kind of flipping through the book, and it's, you know, it was blurbed by people who were like, A Wrinkle in Time is amazing, and you'll love this book, and I was like, oh, she wrote A Wrinkle in Time. So, yeah, so I thought that would be kind of fun to get to. Last one I got is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. I read this a long time ago. Again, I think I read it in high school, and it scared the crap out of me when I was in high school. So I was reading it at night, so that's probably why. But anyways, this one I thought would be fun. If you don't know the plot to Phantom of the Opera, basically, Opera House is being tormented by this masked phantom that people call him, but apparently he's just a deformed man that's very, very sad. Anyways, the book is really, really interesting, and you kind of understand more in the play and the theater production if you read the book. So I feel like you would appreciate it more if you understand sort of the source material. So those are all the books I got in July. I'm hoping to get a bunch more here in August because we're going to be going to Pal's Bookstore. I am so excited, guys. I'm so excited. Anyways, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.